Assalamu alaikum. Hello everyone. In today's presentation, we are going to talk about the very first thing we should know as we prepare for the coming teaching exam, namely the standards-based approach, which is an approach based on a set of standards that are expected to be met. It offers us a description of the expected outcomes and behaviors every learner should possess to demonstrate that he or she has successfully learned the language. Within this approach, there are three types of standards. There are content standards. They are concerned with what learners should know and be able to do with the language. So, as you might have noticed, unlike the traditional methods which simply deal with what learners should know, this approach adds the dimension of language use by describing what learners should be able to do. We have the performance standards. They are concerned with how learners have met a standard, and they also show us the learner's progress towards meeting a standard. Let's say, for example, that your aim is to enlarge the vocabulary of your students. You want them to know as many words as possible. And for example, you give them a list of words and you ask them to remember them while giving them the freedom to choose any technique they prefer. This student, for example, was able to learn 5 words, so this is the learner's progress, because he or she resorted to pictures. He used pictures in order to remember the words. Another student was able to learn 6 words because he learns them by heart. Okay, so this is, the performance standards, this is their aim, this is what they are about. The proficiency standards are the third and last type. They are concerned with how well learners have achieved the content standards. For example, these standards help teachers decide on whether a performance merits an excellent, good, or average grade. So they are more relevant to those situations when the teacher is grading the performance of the students. So the adoption of the standards-based approach can be justified on the following grounds. It addresses what learners must know and be able to do with English. It is based on the premise that cultural understanding is essential in language education. So these are some of the main reasons why Morocco, for example, adopted this approach in order to teach students English. It connects English with other subjects areas. It is based on the view that argues that comparing and contrasting our own language and culture with other languages and cultures leads to better understanding of ours. It stresses the extension of language learning experiences from the classroom to the outside world. It is learner-centered, which means the student inside the classroom shouldn't be passive, he should be active. He should take part in discussions, he should be a decision maker. He decides, how he would like to learn something, for example. And of course, the standards-based approach argues that we should make our learners lifelong learners. Learning doesn't end at the end of the academic year, but even when you graduate and when you are done with everything, you should keep learning. With these grounds in view, we should bear in mind that the standards-based approach focuses on 5 major areas. As we teach English, we should do our best in order to develop the following areas. They are called the 5 C's. The first one is communication. The student should know to learn how to communicate orally and in the written form. They should also know how to interpret the messages, and they should know how to present information in the oral and written form, of course. The second one is cultures. Learners should gain deeper understanding of their culture and other cultures. They should know how Moroccans, for example, think, and how Americans, how people from Australia think, their attitudes, their practices, and their products. In the textbook, for example, you find, units dedicated for food, teaching students about the meals prepared by the Americans. And they should know about the products. So perspectives, practices, and products. Connections, as I said in the previous slide, the standards-based approach asserts that we should connect learning English with other subject areas. Some units in the textbook include themes and topics related to history, geography, biology, politics, among many others. Hence, the interdisciplinary nature of the teaching of English. Comparisons, we should compare our culture, our language to the other cultures and languages. Communities, learners will extend their learning experiences from the EFL classroom to the outside world. So these are the 5 C's, as some people call them, because they all start with C. Our lesson plan and everything we teach should address these 5 C's: communication, culture, connections, comparisons, communities. The teaching of the 4 skills, according to the standards-based approach, should help students develop their communicative competence, which encompasses grammatical competence. They should master English. They should, in terms of pronunciation, in terms of grammar, in terms of vocabulary. Here we are not talking only about grammar. For example, tenses, adjectives, adverbs. No. Grammatical competence is also about pronunciation, speaking, listening. Sociocultural competence, the ability to understand and use utterances appropriately in different sociolinguistic contexts. When you use a word, you know where to use it and when to use it. Discourse competence, the ability to combine grammatical forms and meanings to achieve a unified or coherent spoken or written text in different genres. Strategic competence, the ability to make use of verbal and non-verbal communication strategies. For example, when you don't know a word, you don't know how to express a specific idea, you resort to body language in order to compensate for the lack of that word. You don't know it, so you need to do something. You need to use your body in order to tell the listener what you want to say. So basically, this is a brief presentation of the standards-based approach, and in the coming videos, we will talk about how we can teach listening, reading, speaking, writing, and we will move to how we can plan our lessons and a lot of things related to didactics of English. So thank you so much, and feel free to add any recommendation in the comment section. Thank you so much for listening and for your time.